Hey, everybody. So, I was really eager to perform this TED Talk due to the fact that I've spent a lot of time dealing with our educational system, much like everyone in this room. And I felt as if you could all benefit from this information in a positive manner. So to start, in the first grade, my mother was informed by my first grade teacher that I was disruptive and constantly off task in class. My mom thought this was a bit odd, so she took me to the doctors for a standard checkup. After the standard checkup, the doctor informed my mom that I needed glasses due to nearsightedness and that I was half deaf in both ears. My mom obviously was a bit concerned by this, so she took me to a specialist whom promptly diagnosed me with auditory and visual processing issues. The specialist told me and my mother that I would struggle greatly in the subject of reading comprehension throughout the course of my educational career. He also told me the way in which I would overcome this struggle is by mass amounts of one-on-one learning as opposed to being in a larger classroom environment. So for those who have not heard of the Matthew effect is a theory based off a quote from the Gospel of Matthew. The quote goes as followed: "For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath." So in terms of education, what this means is as the academically rich get richer, the poor get poorer, as small differences early on in one's educational career turn into larger ones down the road. Now, this is directly related to third graders and reading comprehension, due to the fact that in third grade, reading comprehension is supposed to flourish, but if there is an outlying variable such as incorrect curriculum or a bad teacher, students can struggle later on in their academic career. The way that I was able to reach this benchmark is because I had a tutor who I spent an extensive amount of work with, and I had one-on-one activities with my teacher. So basically, I was doing tutorials in the third grade. A lot of the reason for why students can't reach this benchmark in the third grade is because of the teacher. Teachers who exemplify leadership and use the appropriate curriculum should have no issue having their child reach the benchmark. Where you run into trouble is when you have a teacher that does not follow the curriculum and does not exemplify their leadership skills. An example of a good teacher would be Chase Street Elementary School teacher Cameron Brooks. Mr. Brooks is an ideal teacher in terms of teaching and bonding with the students and goes above and beyond the call of duty. An example of this would be every break, every lunch, every recess, he goes and he plays games with the kids and shows them new sports to play in the process. When he does this, he exemplifies his leadership skills and shows that he is more than just a teacher figure. He is a personal figure, a friendly figure, a trusting figure. Another thing that Mr. Brooks does is every morning to start the day off, he hands each kid a raisin. Their kids are supposed to take the raisin, hold it by their index finger and thumb, look at the raisin for a minute, and then eat the raisin for another minute. What this is supposed to do is show the value of eating, something completely taken for granted in our modern day society. It is also supposed to be a fun, easy, calm, creative way to start the day off. So with these two small examples, you can see that Mr. Brooks understands that being a good teacher is relevant towards a good educational system and that doing the minimal amount is very easy to get away with in our modern day educational system. I read a novel called Goodbye, Mr. Chips, and this is a quote that I read from the book. "Schoolmastering is so different, so important, don't you think? To be influencing those who are going to grow up and matter to the world." So what this says to me is that teachers are doing more than just teaching students how to do math, how to write, how to read, etc. They are showing kids how to lead. They're showing kids how to lead the next generation. So at this point, it's pretty obvious that being a good teacher is necessary for having a good educational system. But what about the educational system itself? How do we know if we're doing anything wrong as a culture? Well, the only way we can really answer this question is by looking at another educational system and comparing it to ourselves. And in this case, we will use Finland as the example. Now, for one, Finland spends less time in the classroom, they spend more time outside. When they do this, the kids relieve more stress and more energy, and as a result, they learn better. You can use Mr. Brooks as an example for why this is true. Also, in Finland, they spend 5 hours of class a day as compared to the USA, which is 7 hours of class a day. Kids thrive off more condensed, concentrated learning as opposed to longer, drawn-out periods of education, teaching, learning. Finally, the amount of teachers per student in Finland is 8-to-1, the ratio, as opposed to America, which is 20-to-1. Now, this really sticks out to me due to the fact that I always thought throughout my life that I was different because I thrived off of a smaller class size and one-on-one learning. But after this statistic, it is possible that maybe this system works for all education, or all forms of education for elementary school students. You may be thinking to yourself, what exactly has Finland done as compared to the USA that is so much better in terms of education? Well, if you take a look at the PISA score of Finland versus the USA, let me back up. The PISA score is a test derived for countries in general to compare each other. So if one country wants to see who's doing better than another country in education, they'll use this test. And as you can see, in every subject in the PISA, Finland beats us. So while we have longer class periods a day, we spend less time outside, we spend more time in the classroom, Finland has the better educational system. They teach their kids better. I've presented to you all of these issues that are apparent in our society, but what about solutions? What are we going to do as the USA to solve this problem? Well, 3 things. For one, we need to decrease class size. I thought that I was different because I thrived off of more one-on-one, smaller classroom and environmental learning. But after my research, it's apparent that maybe all kids thrive off of this system. 2, we need to strengthen the focus of teachers. Teachers like Mr. Brooks, who go above and beyond the call of duty for what is necessary as an educational system, are necessary if we want to have a better educational system than Finland and in general. Finally, we need to decrease time in class. Kids thrive off of condensed and concentrated learning. When you have longer drawn-out periods, they won't grasp the information that is necessary in order to be successful in their educational careers. If we do all of these things, we will have a better educational system, and maybe one day we will have a better PISA score than Finland. Thank you.